what do you see? He was like, I'm trying to get the head. I'm trying to get the pool set up. And I was
Yeah.
like, do you see anything? He was like, no, not yet. Maybe Melinda, our midwife, can make it back. So he went around doing his things, and I knew I wanted him with me, but I also knew I wanted him like helping get the pool because I guess in our minds we still.
Hello, welcome back to Unforgettable Birth Stories. If you're new here, my name is Destiny, and I share all things birth and pregnancy related on this channel. Today, I have invited Ammie over from her YouTube, Ammie Harris, to share her birth story of baby number 3, who ended up being an unassisted birth because her midwives just didn't make it in time. I'm just so thankful that she is willing to share her story with us and kick off this section of Unforgettable Birth Stories, where we have kind of a podcasty style of storytelling where I invite you guys and some of my clients and my friends to come share their birth stories with you guys, because one major thing that can help get your mind right while you're preparing to have a natural birth is to listen to all of the birth stories, so you can never have too many birth stories. So I'm so glad you guys are here. Grab your coffee, grab your tea, grab your kombucha, whatever, and let's listen to the story. Hi, I'm so
Hey,
glad that you could do this with me.
yes, I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm so excited just to hear a little bit about your story and just hear a little bit about you. I'm so thankful that I came across your channel. I just love everything that you post.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure. It's so good. So, can you tell me just a little bit about you? If I haven't said it already, this is Ammie. Am I saying it right?
Yes,
Ammie?
that's correct,
Okay,
Amy.
I figured, but I was like, oh gosh, I hope I say it right.
It's Amy, yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So go ahead and just tell me a little bit about.
I'm a mama of three. I have a 3-year-old, a almost 2-year-old, and a 2-month-old. So right back to back. So our life is exciting. I just came home to be with them just last year. So I'm a full-time stay-at-home mom now. And then I have a YouTube channel, of course, as you mentioned, where I share lots of motherhood stuff and birth topics. And that's kind of my side passion. But of course, my kids full-time, home with them. I absolutely love it. It's such a blessing.
I love that. That's so cool. Yeah, I have 3 boys, pregnant with our fourth, and they're 6, 4, and 1.5. So
Pretty
I get
quick.
it. It's pretty crazy sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So with is this was this your first home birth, or have you had other home
This
births?
was my second home birth.
Okay.
My second daughter was born here, and it was not a free birth, as we'll get into. My
Yeah.
midwife barely made it to that home birth for about 20 minutes, so it was also a quick birth. But that was our first home birth with our daughter. Our son, our first child, was born in a hospital, and that's kind of what led me to home birth. We might be able to go into that, but um, that birth was pretty traumatic. I did not like all of the options that I had to fight for in a hospital and was just like, there's got to be a better way. We're going to try it at home this time. So
Yeah.
this was
Cool.
my second home birth. So I've had 2 now.
I love that. That's really cool. Nice. Cool. So yeah, you kind of answered. I was going to ask you what made you decide to go the home birth route. And yeah,
Yes.
I feel like a lot of people either they go in like with their first, like wanting it right away, or it's like their second or third, and they're like, yeah,
Uh-huh.
there's just got to be a better way.
Yeah.
So that's really
That's
cool.
exactly how it was. It was just traumatic, not, I would say traumatic. I mean, did not end up with anything like major, like
Mhm.
surgery. We didn't go into, didn't have an epidural, didn't have a C-section, nothing super traumatic. It was just very long, and I felt like I was constantly fighting for my wishes, and my doula was having to help. I mean, she was amazing, helping me fight for what I wanted in my husband, but it wasn't peaceful. It was very stressful. We had a lot of problems and complications with nursing after the birth, and I know it stemmed from that really long traumatic birth, and it's been completely different with my 2 daughters now being born
Yeah,
at home. So
yeah. Oh, I know it's so hard, um, having to fight for what you want. Like it shouldn't have to be that
exactly.
way. So I'm glad you made the other options and decided to go with that. Cool.
Yes.
So, I think we should just jump right in, and
Okay.
I've been so excited to hear like your full story. So
Well,
it's
thank
all
you.
yours.
So I was expecting to go past my 40 weeks, as all my children have come past 40 weeks. So we hit 40 weeks, and I wasn't really anticipating anything happening because my other children came at 41 weeks. So just hanging out and excited about meeting our daughter. We did not know her gender, so that was a huge surprise, and we were all anxious and
Mm.
excited. So I was 40 weeks and I don't even remember now, 2 days, 3 or 4 days. I don't remember. They all blur together now, all my
Yeah.
kids, the day, but it was right past 40 weeks. And I just woke up that morning at 5 o'clock to a light contraction. And it was very similar to my last birth that I had at home. I woke up at midnight on that birth and was started having contractions. But I was really excited this time because it was in the morning and I was like, we're gonna have a day birth. My kids can be awake. They can be here and experience it because my children, my oldest was really excited. He was really into meeting his brother or sister and he was going to cut the cord and he was just really excited. And I was really like thanking God that it was going to be a day birth and just really excited about that. So, uh, woke up my husband and told him the news and was like, well, I think they're really slow. I mean, I was having contractions very mild, like 20 minutes apart. And I was like, you can go into work and I'll just keep you updated. He was like, I can at least go for the morning and come home if I need to. Cause my last birth was so quick as well. I thought we might be having a baby by lunch or the afternoon just by going off the way my previous home birth went with my other daughter. So the day just started as normal. I was listening to some birth podcasts just to kind of get my mindset right and just thinking about the positivities of birth and reminding myself that I can do this. And just, I listen to birth podcasts all the time and birth stories because that's like one of my number one tips for empowering yourself and getting yourself ready and getting in your mindset that you can do this, especially if you're having a home birth or wanting a hospital birth with minimal to no interventions. And so I was listening to the podcast and things were just 15, 20 minutes apart. I could make breakfast, do my normal daily tasks through them. The kids woke up. I told them we were probably going to meet their brother or sister today. So they were really excited. And we just went about our day. By mid morning and lunch, my husband was like, I'm going to come on home at lunch. Any news? I was like, well, it's kind of the same. Like, literally nothing changed the
Yeah.
whole morning. It was just 20 to 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes. There were not any pattern. And I could easily just sit on the birth ball, play with my kids. There was nothing intense. So I was like, well, I guess this is going to be a little slower than last time. And he did get home and asked me how I was doing. He was like, well, you look fine. You don't look anything like you did in your previous labors when you were in like active labor. And I was like, well, these contractions are I'm really starting to feel them. Like, I think at this point that it was just getting in my mind that I was so ready for something to happen. It had been now, I guess, 8 or 9 hours of just that
Mm.
early labor. It was right after lunch when he got home. And I was like, I guess in my mind, I was like working it up that I was about to have a baby and I wanted to have a baby that afternoon. I wanted the kids to be awake. I wanted everybody to be awake and not tired and sleepy at that point. So I'd been talking to my midwife the whole day and she was just keeping her updated and just like I said, it got kind of frustrating, but I think in my head, I was like, this is going to happen. So kind of like was setting myself up for things to happen and nothing was really changing. In my mind, it was, but looking back now, nothing was changing. So at like 3, we were like doing yard work outside. I was helping my husband. I was easily able to do stuff. And he was like, Amy, you don't even look like you're about to have a baby. Are you sure you're even having contractions?
Yeah.
And I would stop and like breathe through them, but they were so minimal. And again, in my mind, they were a lot more intense than looking back now. So he was like, I don't think we're having a baby. Do you need to call the midwife? And I was like, well, she knows, yada, yada, yada. We'll get her here in time, hopefully. Because like I said, she barely made it to the previous home birth for 20 minutes. So I guess it was like 3 o'clock. Everything was still just, I think they had finally reached about 10 minutes apart. But again, they were very mild. They weren't even lasting a minute. My midwife had always told me you need them to last a minute and be several minutes apart for them to actually be doing something to your cervix. And anyways, at like 3 o'clock, I was like, okay, I'm just going to tell her to come because she's 2 hours away. I
Yeah.
want her to at least check me. And I wasn't wanting to have any cervical checks, but at this point, I was getting kind of frustrated. I needed to know something. And she was 2 hours away. I didn't want her to miss it. So I was like, come on over. Let's just see where we are. Maybe things will pick up on your drive here. So we made dinner. No, we didn't make dinner at that point. That was after she left. But we just were doing our normal things through the
Yeah.
day. She got there at 5 and checked me. And well, first she walked in the door. She's like, you look great. Again, like my husband said, you don't, she knew immediately I was not in any active labor. And at this point, I don't even remember the like spacing between the contractions, but it was closer, but still nothing intense. Like I was easily able to smile as she walked in the door and chat with her and hang out with my kids. And she checked me and I was like, at least maybe I'm 5 or 6, at
Mhm.
least 5 or 6, at least we're like halfway there. I was 2 centimeters. It was the most frustrating thing to hear, and my heart just sank. I was like, I've been doing this all day. It was 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. So now we had been 12 hours in, and I was 2 centimeters. I was literally wanted to cry, and I just held it together. And my husband could tell my heart had just sank. He knew how badly I wanted to have a day birth for the kids to be there. And we talked with her, and she was like, well, you're only 2. You could either pick up in the next several hours, maybe have a baby by midnight, or either even the next day, or your body could just kind of go back and forth. She didn't think it was prodromal labor because my contractions had gotten closer together. They just hadn't really gotten more intense. So we just chatted with her and decided she would go home. My husband had agreed. We are supposed to have some storms coming in the next day, and he was like, maybe you can make it back before the storms, or maybe the baby will come after the storms. We don't know. And we decided to send her home. And right after that, we went and made dinner, carried on with the evening, and we were sitting down at dinner, and this thought just crossed my head. I was like, Tyler, to my husband, now that you sent our midwife home, we're probably going to end up having a free birth. And he was like, well, I don't, maybe not. But if we do, God will have it in his control. It'll be okay. And that thought had come to my mind at dinner that night. Well, he went and got the kids to bed. She had told me to take a warm bath with some Epsom salt and just to calm my body. And I'd put some magnesium in there just to really calm myself. And because I was super frustrated at this
Oh
point
yeah.
at only being 2 centimeters. So he put the kids to bed. I got in the bath, put on another birth podcast just to kind of
Mhm.
lift my spirits because I was so down at this point. And literally about a minute or two into the podcast, I was laying in the tub. Everything changed. I was like, wow, like I could not even lay there. I was trying to get in all different positions in the tub to get comfortable. We have a little bitty tub. It wasn't like a big, nice soaking tub. So it was so uncomfortable. And I lasted about 5 minutes in the tub. And at this point, I guess I'll give you a timeline. She left at like 5:30. This was probably only like 6:30. So within an hour of her leaving and me being only 2 centimeters, I was in the tub and everything just shifted immediately. I don't know if it was the water or maybe I finally relaxed. Maybe since the kids were going to bed, I really wanted the kids to be there, but I kind of looking back think that my body truly relaxed when my kids were in bed.
Mhm.
Maybe I knew I didn't need to have the kids with me, or I don't know, but my body just completely changed at that point. And I had to get out of the tub, head downstairs. I was
Mhm.
laying in our bed trying to breathe through them. And at this point, I was probably about to go through transition because when my husband came and checked on me, I was shaking. And that's like the
Mhm.
symbol for me when I'm going through transition. And I started to feel a little nauseous. And like him looking back, he knows that's my sign. At the time, I didn't really realize I was in transition, but he
Oh
was
yeah.
like, I think things are changing fast. Do we need to call the midwife? So it was, I guess at this point, probably like right after 7. So not she'd still only been going like an hour and a half. She hadn't even made it all the way back home to from leaving our house.
Yeah.
And he was like, Amy's changing a lot. She's starting to shake. And she just started talking us through it. And I remember just thinking, like just praying, I was like, this is like I knew something was happening really fast. I didn't know if they was about to come or if we had another few hours of this, but I was just praying that she would make it back because I knew my body would be okay I knew I had complete faith in my own body to give birth and in God's provision, but I was just worried if the baby needed something. That was my only concern. And I just wanted to have her here for that. Um, Completely trusting in God's provision and
Yeah.
all. My husband and I both had prayed so much about it and just wanted our midwife there, but we knew we could do it if we had to, but it wasn't our first choice. So
Mhm.
he called her and chatted with her, and I was just breathing through contractions. She listened to me and was like, well, I'm gonna stop at this gas station and just give y'all a minute and make a decision. Well, within 30 seconds, he saw me trembling. He was like, she's coming back. So he called her and was like, turn around. And she talked us through a few things. And in case baby came, she kind of told my husband some things to be prepared for because she didn't know how intense it was, but
Yeah.
he went back and was saying, I knew we were probably about to have a baby without her. So anyways, I he was we were oh I didn't even mention we were trying to have a water birth. I was at the bed at this point. We had the pool set up. We didn't have it filled. So he was like, I'm gonna go set the pool up. Just breathe, call me if you need me. So I was just laying in bed, breathing through contractions. We didn't even put on my birth playlist. Things were happening so quickly. I had all this planned, had the water birth plan, the birth playlist, I planned for the kids, and just shows you that birth can change in an instant. What you plan for probably may not happen. It still was absolutely beautiful. Just wasn't the exact timeline and the things I had set out. But he was trying to get the pool set up, and immediately I was like, "Come in here. I need help." So I felt my body tell me to get on my hands and knees. And I always say that your body will tell you what position to get into. And in the hospital birth, I tried to get on hands and knees because I knew I didn't want to birth on my back.
Mhm.
And it was just not comfortable in the hospital. I don't know if it was just the atmosphere I was in. I was just in a stress state. But my last two births, my body just told me to get on my hands and knees. And that's how I've ended up birthing my last two children. And I needed his help to get into that position. So he came back and I was like, "What do you see?" He was like, "I'm trying to get the head. I'm trying to get the pool set up." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Do you see anything?" He was like, "No, not yet. Maybe Melinda, our midwife, can make it back." So he went around doing his things, and I knew I wanted him with me, but I also knew I wanted him like helping get the pool because I guess in our minds we still thought we might make it to the pool.
I love
He had the hose. He had about an inch of water in there, but not enough to get in.
it.
So he left again after telling me everything. He didn't see anything, and I was on my hands and knees just breathing. And it's so crazy how your body just goes through that contraction and you feel everything coming down, and then you get that relief. And
Mhm.
in my first birth, I was on like Pitocin and stuff, and it's just crazy comparing and contrasting. We maybe get to this, but I didn't mean to
Yeah,
throw this in,
go
but
ahead. No,
I
add
just wanted
away.
to share the
Yeah, add
difference
away.
in how the contractions are like you get a break, and it's just like you can mentally reset between that contraction for the next contraction. And I just remember on my hands and knees in bed. My husband wasn't with me at this point because he was trying to help me get things set up, but I was just in like this most calm state that I would have the contraction, I would be able to breathe, reset, and then have the next one. It's just crazy how your body knows to help you through that. And it's just tell want to let all mamas know that you can do it. Your body's meant to do that. So, anyways, the next time I called him, next time he came back in here and I called him and I was like, I need you to look again. I really feel like something's coming out. That pressure you feel. And I was like, what do you see? And in the video, he's like, the head. And I was like, wow, you saw my video. So
Yeah.
he was like, I see a head. And he said it like in the most calm manner. And I don't know how he was staying so calm, but I mean, I was so thankful that he was calm because I was at that point getting a little more nervous that I knew at that point our midwife was not going to make it. We were going to be birthing unassisted. So he got the midwife on the phone because she told us that she would coach us through it, which her voice was extremely calming to hear.
Mhm.
After he saw the head, the next contraction, the head came out. He just calmly held her head, and our midwife was just calmly, her voice was just so peaceful in that moment. And he calmly held her head. And then the next contraction, she rotated. It's amazing how your body just rotates that baby so the shoulders can come out. And within the next contraction, she was out. So I didn't push at all. It was completely at the fetal
Oh,
ejection reflex. It was absolutely beautiful. It didn't tear. Within, I guess, three contractions, she was out. We had the head, we had the crown of the head, the ring of fire, of course, which was super quick. It wasn't even that painful because it was just my body was just ready and it
yeah.
knew what to do. I always say that if you just trust your body, it's going to do it for you and it's going to be manageable. So within three contractions, she was here, cried immediately. Our midwife confirmed that everything was okay. And that was my only fear is not having her here is that something would be wrong with baby. And God was just with us and we could feel
Mhm.
his presence as she was laid on my chest and was crying and she pinked up within 20 to 30 seconds. And then we just cuddled with her. We left the placenta attached and everything till the midwife got here. And it was just amazing. And I was in shock for like the next 24 hours that actually happened. Our entire family and friends were in shock that Tyler delivered the baby, and
Right?
he was still in shock for the whole next couple of days. And still, we laugh about it, not laugh about it. We're so thankful, and it's just in awe that that actually happened. And but it was so special that he got to deliver our child, only him. He was the first one to
Wow.
touch our little baby, and it was just mind blowing, but absolutely beautiful.
That's so amazing. I love that. And I love how like in your birth video, like You guys are just so peaceful. And like, I just, like, the Holy Spirit, his presence was definitely like over you guys, just with how well you managed everything was just so cool.
It was definitely, there were a few moments of fear and I guess a little doubt, but I knew immediately he calmed that fear and
Yeah,
gave me so much peace, and my husband. So he definitely was with us. It was so beautiful.
that's amazing. Wow. So was your other home birth, was it similar to this one? I know you said it was kind of fast.
It was
Did
very
you have the
similar.
fetal?
Yes.
Okay.
It was very similar, but it wasn't so like I was in active labor a lot longer with that one. Like I knew I was in active labor. I had to like manage contractions, like swaying a lot. But with these, the early labor was so long, like
Mm,
over 12 hours. The
yeah.
other was only, the early labor was probably only like 6 or 7 hours. It wasn't nearly as long. And I was sleeping through most of the early labor last time because it was in the night. This time, my early labor was all day with my kids. So, but then active labor was literally like less than an hour or two, an hour and a half, the
Yeah.
exact timeline from like 5:30 to she was born right after 7:30. So 7:50. So right at 2 hours of active labor. But uh, the other active labor was well like 4 or 5 hours. So it was different in that sense. I knew we were having baby. I felt the pressure and I felt the fetal ejection, but there was a lot more like preparedness in my mind to
Hmm.
prepare for the last one, whereas this one was just the baby's about to come out.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like you transitioned so quickly.
Yes. From 2 centimeters to 10 within like an hour and a half. It was
Yeah,
insane.
that's amazing. I
Insane.
feel like, yeah, like it could have been a mixture of things, just like, you being checked and you relaxing and just like
Yeah.
all of that combined, your kids possibly going to sleep. It's just like, okay, I can do this now. It's really cool.
Yeah, I think I wanted the kids there, but there was always this worry of my mom was supposed to be here to care for the kids. My mom
Mhm.
lives a good hours away, and I guess there was a fear of is she going to make it in time, and if she's not here, my husband will have to be helping with them, and then he won't be here. So I guess all that like instinctively in my mind, maybe like looking back now, that may have been why my body just didn't relax and go into full labor until they were in bed and knew they would be safe. And looking back, I think that's probably what it was and what God intended. So maybe if we have another one, they can be present. Because my son, we did wake him up. If you saw the video, he was so excited. He was a
Yeah.
little sad that he had a sister instead of a brother, and he wanted to cut the cord. He did get to cut the cord, but he wanted to announce the gender,
Oh,
and
yeah.
but he didn't get to. So now he always says, if we have another baby, I'm going to announce that it's a boy. So he's set on that boy.
So sweet. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we're planning a home birth with this one. We
Huh?
had center births with the other three.
Yeah,
And yeah, I kind of have that fear, like I want at least my oldest to be involved.
yeah,
But the other two, like, yeah, my husband, if no one gets there in time, and we'll have to,
exactly.
help with them. And so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah,
But
I think our bodies know what we need in that moment. So even if we don't.
absolutely, yeah. It's so cool how our bodies are designed. I love
Yeah.
So with your hospital birth, tell me a little bit about that and how I know you were kind of mentioning like with the Pitocin, how you didn't get a break between your contractions. Tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about
Well, again, I did not want to be induced. I
that.
was completely against it, but they basically guilted me, scared me into it. It was just I talk a lot about that on like hospital bullying
Yeah.
mamas. And I don't think they mean to. They just are trying to look out for your best efforts. But basically, I was guilted into the induction over a weekend because they didn't
Mm,
want me to go over the weekend and baby be not safe. So, anyways, I started induction. I was put on Pitocin very low because I was very adamant about wishes. I didn't want the induction, but if I did it, I was going to do it super low and slow and was very drawn out. It ended up being 77 hours. It was super
wow.
long, but yeah, the Pitocin, when they did finally up it to like, I think 50%, it was just when it finally hit me like that, my body was like, okay, I'm giving in. Y'all are going to force me to go into labor. Let's just do this. It
Yeah.
was just intense. Like my husband was having to do counter pressure, my doula. And like in these births, I didn't even need any of that because the
Yeah.
natural contractions, I know some women do, but me personally, it was so different the way my body handled natural contractions versus Pitocin. I didn't need all the counter pressure and all of the extra efforts from a doula or my husband. Whereas with the Pitocin contractions, it was just contraction. you feel the contraction, and then it's still just this, it was just still this intense
Mhm.
pressure between contractions. And the next one, there was no like natural break that you get in the real ones. And there was really no mind reset. And it made me very nauseous. And it was just completely different. And then that was what woke me up that there had to be a better way to have a baby. Because before that hospital birth, I literally had never even thought of home birth. I never even thought of people still doing that. I thought
Yeah.
that was just like in the old days. And now, like I talk about home birth all the time. I absolutely love it. But um, my hospital birth was, it ended up being beautiful, and I didn't have to have the epidural or any of the things I didn't want, but it was just very long, drawn out. The Pitocin was difficult to get through. They were constantly asking me, did I want this intervention, this intervention? I
Mhm.
was like, no, please don't. So it was never like relaxed, and
Yeah.
your body needs to be relaxed to go to have the baby. And
Mhm.
I think that's what made it take so long, because I was never truly relaxed in that hospital setting.
Yeah, that makes sense. Oh,
Completely different as far as the contractions.
yeah, I've heard that. I've never had Pitocin, but some of my clients and just friends even that have had Pitocin
Yeah,
and then didn't have Pitocin, they've mentioned kind of the similar things
a
where
world of a difference.
it's so different.
Yes.
So different. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I get it. Like interventions are there when needed, but I don't think they should be pushed, as much as they
Exactly.
unfortunately are.
And
So
they're so hard if you're in that setting to say no to them, because they're, again, I don't think they mean to be like that, but it's just all they know.
yeah,
Many,
exactly.
many in the hospital have not even seen a natural birth. I remember asking when I was in the pushing phase, they were trying to count for me, and I was like, I don't feel like I need to count. I don't feel like I need to push for these 10 seconds. My
Yeah.
body just, I remember it being really weird. And they were like counting to 10. And I was like, how did y'all know how to have your babies? And they're like, well, we didn't. We had epidurals. Like they didn't even know what a natural birth looked like. So
Yeah.
my doula was there, and she was really calm, and she was like, you'll know when to push, just listen to your body. But I had all these other voices, all the nurses and the doctor telling me otherwise. So it was really just like
Mhm.
a war between the two,
Yeah.
just very stressful.
Oh, man. Well, I'm glad that you were able to have, it seems like too. I mean, it doesn't sound like that birth was too terribly
Yeah.
traumatic, but I'm really glad that you were able to have the two home births
Yes.
following to
And
just
I'm
kind of
so
give you
thankful. I talk about that birth being traumatic, but I'm so thankful for it, because it's literally what woke my husband and I up to
mm,
all of our lifestyle now, and just like drastically changed not just our life, not just our local birth, but like everything in our life.
yeah.
That birth just kind of like shifted us completely. So I'm so thankful for it, and that I can share my story in it to help other mamas, because I've had several other friends who had had the same experience in a hospital and wanted something different, and was able to share my experience. So I know everything happens for a reason. And
Oh yeah.
I talk about that birth being traumatic, but I'm so thankful for it, that it changed our lifestyle completely.
I love that. That's so cool how you can take something like that and just it can completely change everything.
It does. It did
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah. So cool how it works, like how God works like that.
Exactly. Yes.
Awesome. Cool. Well, do you have anything else or any other tips that you would like to share, or advice for any other moms that are listening right now? Because we all know
Like
we all do it.
like I already said, just trust your body. Even if you're not having a home birth and you're in a hospital and you are being pushed these things upon you, if they don't feel right to you, just as best you can advocate for yourself. It's kind of difficult in that setting if you are in a hospital, but just if that's what you want, and you want your body just to do this how God intended our bodies to do it, just trust it, because it can. And there are going to be moments of doubt, like when you're in transition, whatever your body looks like in that. For me, it's that shaking, very hot, cold feeling.
Mhm.
There are going to be moments that you're doubting yourself, but you can get through it. And it's just absolutely beautiful when you've done it naturally, and you just have no side effects from medications, and you're just able to cuddle with baby. And it's just such a beautiful thing, such a beautiful reward for your work.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing.
You.
I
I
love
enjoyed
this
coming on
story.
and chatting.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. So what is your YouTube is Ammie Harris, right?
It is, yes, just
Okay, cool.
MMIE.
Ammie Harris. Cool. So those of you watching or listening, if you haven't followed Ammie or subscribed to Amy's channel, definitely check it out because you have a lot of great things on
Thank
there.
you so
Not only
much.
your birth advice and your birth stories, but just your like your most recent video about nourishing our bodies and our families.
Yeah.
It's like, so good. And I feel like I'm
Thank you.
always constantly wanting to learn more and nourish our families more. I feel like you can't ever learn enough.
Exactly. You can always adapt and change and improve your family's health and well-being in all areas. And that's what I share a lot about and constantly am striving to do with our own family and just sharing how we are implementing and trying. I mean, again, always adapting, always changing, always trying to do better.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're not perfect. So
Exactly.
lots of
Exactly.
adjustments. Yeah, trial and errors that works for you and your family.
Hmm.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna let you go. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you
Again,
so
thank you
much.
so much for coming on, and I'll talk to you later.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. See ya.
Bye.
If you enjoyed the video as much as I did, make sure you hit the subscribe button while you're at it so you don't miss any of the other videos that I share, either more episodes like this, birth videos, or birth and labor tips, and my pregnancy journey update on baby number 4. If you have a birth story that you would like to share on Unforgettable Birth Stories, then reach out below to my email and I would love to chat with you and get your birth story up on my channel. So, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.